So you want to do the right thing. What's going to happen? Well, I went online and I went to a video. I made a video based on a list somebody sent me of 14,550 dead people who apparently voted in the state of Michigan. I didn't go on anybody's computer. This was on a paste bin doc drop, and it was on Michigan State website. And somebody named DJD1411 said, LOL, way to go, man. You are on video committing federal crime. Telling others to do it too. Reporting this channel to YT, the Michigan Attorney General, and the FBI. Good luck. Well, good luck, you idiot, because I didn't commit any crime. I just shared information that was readily available online. But it got me to thinking, there's other places you can share information besides YouTube and Facebook. For example, have you ever considered the possibility of sharing information to the Supreme Court? You can. You just go to supremecourt.gov/contact, and there's a form you can fill out. And that form basically allows you a line to the highest court in the land. Granted, it probably takes them a while to get to things, but I wrote them something today because the fraud of this election, the obvious fraud, besides, 14,000 plus people born between 1900 and 1920 being registered to vote in Detroit, that's bad enough, but this fraud is so obvious. The president of Mexico doesn't recognize Joe Biden as the president-elect. He's waiting until the courts figure it out because he knows this is a canard. So here's what I wrote to the Supreme Court. I said, the First and Second Amendments were designed precisely to preserve our representative republic against hostile takeover from within. Our founding fathers absolutely understood the concept that a totality of power produces total corruption. Accordingly, they established separate branches of the government as checks and balances. Our First and Second Amendment rights are similarly checks and balances against tyrannical government overthrows. Systematically, these rights have been whittled away by a left-leaning elite since well before I was born, and for the specific purposes of undermining the republic. Are our leaders not students of history? Did they not see the fall of Tsarist Russia? Are they not familiar with Jacobins? For the same energy defines the fraudulently named BLM and ironically backwards Antifa, who are themselves fascist. Bernie Sanders stated that no religious ideology should be anywhere in government, but the preponderance of our founding fathers were themselves what are today understood to be pastors. Surely they meant no such thing in their restriction on government's role and faith. The American way of life has been systematically hijacked by known subversives. Yuri Bezmenov laid it all out for us in 1984 during an interview from the John Birch Society, and that's key to the issue we're dealing with right now. Vindictive partisan politics are one thing, but underhanded foreign election interference, propaganda, theft, intimidation, racketeering, and prejudice are quite another. I am from Wyoming, and I have a degree in theater, but I'm a conservative. For my entire life, I have been ostracized, ridiculed, lied to, passed over, shunned, blackballed, and assaulted both physically and verbally for what I believe. I've had to live in an RV for 4 years pursuing my career as a comic and entertainer despite gaining national recognition on America's Got Talent in 2018. This was not because I'm some societal fool, but because such a hostile Bolshevik environment characterizes America's entertainment industry. I must pursue my skill set under the full knowledge my peers would destroy me if they could, simply based on my beliefs, the beliefs that are a core precept of this country. That same energy permeates Hollywood and the media mainstream, and has done for a very long time. Al Gore predicted the effects of global warming he warned our country about leading up to the hotly contested 2000 election. He was so sure of himself, he rode his momentum from the loss into the production of a film called An Inconvenient Truth. And that film was completely wrong. That's ironic. So wrong in point of fact, the man made a sequel. But the left lauds him because the agenda of the Bolsheviks is in line with reducing populations and individual independence from the state, and their force yet predominates in the same circles today. No wonder they humored Gore as he went about demanding a recount. He was their guy. How telling they would not humor a candidate asking for similar favors from the other side of the political fence. These same modern robber barons, posing as legitimate businessmen, exercise a double standard. Sore losers and deceivers. Instead of accepting a free and legitimate election in 2016, they cooked up a vast array of conspiracy theories that have been systematically disproven. Anyone with a mild familiarity of Russian politics understands there is no possibility Russia stole America's election. The country's two first world cities surrounded by the past. They don't have resources. Anybody who could breathe and walk simultaneously took one look at Kavanaugh and knew he never did anything untoward to anybody. And indeed, the lies against him were retracted. Anyone who read the transcript of President Trump's phone call to Ukraine also had the ability to reference associated law and historical actions of previous presidents, all indicating no wrongdoing on the president's part. Anyone who didn't have tapioca for a brain saw the total falsity limbing the fraudulent impeachment of 2019's fourth quarter. Anyone with eyes to see saw our country's Speaker of the House rip the State of the Union address before the whole world after one of the most inspiring speeches any president has ever made in our history. Anyone who can count understood the Wuhan coronavirus, COVID-19, was a complete canard from the start, especially when the media turned on a dime from pushing fear on the public to castigating the president and downplaying the virus to pushing fear on the public again. Anyone who can think critically saw that George Floyd's death should in no way have included COVID-19 as a possible cause on the death certificate. When it was later revealed his death transpired from an overdose of fentanyl, it was glaringly obvious the media circus was just that, a show for our entertainment and stimulation. Anyone who can think understood the clear double standard between riotous looting protesters collaterally killing innocents like David Dorn and patriotic citizens protesting an unjust lockdown. When in September it developed that the CDC actually only supposed 6% of total deaths were COVID-19 fatalities solely, and that 94% of fatalities were related to comorbidity such as George Floyd's fentanyl-related respiration restriction, it became crystal clear how deeply we had been lied to. The UN published a report that NPR circulated, which noted 9 million people would die of malnutrition in the third world owing to the fallout from this lockdown. Annually, 9 million people on average die anyway from malnutrition. So the lockdown procedures will, if they haven't already, likely kill twice as many people as starvation normally does in this turbulent year 2020. Meanwhile, more are dying of despair or political unrest every single day. It is no exaggeration, and it is not incorrect to say that by literally doing nothing, we would have saved more than 9 times the present COVID-19 fatalities worldwide. That's a fact. A common cold or influenza together kills more on annual, averaging the annual together, than that 6% of total reported deaths the CDC alluded to in September. So anyone who can reason understands the entire coronavirus narrative is just that, and its purpose is to undermine our election. So when we, the people, see our Second and First Amendment rights being trampled in real time by a mainstream media bent on fraudulently pushing their ideal candidate, a man who can't think or talk straight and who has a son known to abuse crack and Chinese kids, the American people have had enough. I watched in real time, as these Marxist, Bolshevik, sycophant puppets consolidated every aspect of their resources into pushing a lie so obvious it demands the people to respond to it directly. If there is no legal response from our country's branches of government, that is, China is a clear and present danger who is confederated with objectively defined traitors in this country for the purpose of undermining it. This is clear to those of us who don't have your august position in the Supreme Court. Remember, I was writing this to them. Their confederation with people like Gavin Newsom, with businesses like AMC, and with news outlets such as CNN, will destroy our country. Silicon Valley, in conjunction with China, has partnered to advance false narratives on the public for many years. And here they are reaching a fever pitch of deception and theft. This isn't the people of China perpetrating these ills on our society, but that country's present subversive Marxist administration. I say that just to avoid the obvious recrimination from the left of racism. I'm talking about the Communist Party in China, not the Chinese. When the American people saw these forces come together to steal our election, we realized that if justice could not be served, it was our right and duty as free and proud American citizens to defend our country, and defend it we will. Voter suppression and theft is the destruction of our republic, and figurehead statesmen put into power by such forces will continue to erode our country until it is nothing but a vassal state to China. This cannot be allowed. Riots that kill innocents like David Dorn, theft, looting, propaganda pushed by our governing officials in objectively observable collusion with foreign powers, even as they project their own illegal activity on a perfectly legal administration, blackballing, suppression, prejudice, lies, racism against straight white Christian males, the theft of the lives of our unborn, perversity advocation in the form of convicted pedophile Tatiana Malanina's twerking in front of toddlers, and that convict just a fraction of the overall national movement toward child abuse. All these things are cancers on our country. And if they're not dealt with, if they're not controlled, it will be the destruction of this great land. The Supreme Court must do its duty. The Supreme Court must do its duty. Voting irregularities are clearly part of a larger system of manipulation. COVID-19 itself is a piece of that puzzle. You can see that objectively as those in opposition to Trump totally reverse their draconian policies in the wake of an MSN pushing a narrative which ignores blatant election meddling. We, the people, respectfully ask you to do the right thing and keep this traitorous banana republic shenaniganery from defining our country. This is the most important work the Supreme Court has ever done. May God direct you, and may justice be done. I am no fighter. I am a man of words and artistry, but if I do not fight, neither my words nor my artistry can survive. And if they must die, then what a fool I would be to let them die without mounting a defense. However, if our government did its job rather than justifying its own existence, none of these issues would exist. Please, justices of the Supreme Court, preserve our country. It's not too late, but the moment at which these things pass that event horizon looms closer every second of every day.